So again, I have my premix catalyst. I'm just going to dump that in there. Again, really, I'm not worried that much about having this set up that quickly. And you have to really be watching it when you're doing a job in the outdoors, in the sunlight, especially on a sunny surface or, you know, on a sunny day. Gel coat is the most tricky layer, and you really want to avoid having sun on the sun deck surface when you're doing it, just because of the heat buildup. Let me get this out of here. If there's a lot of heat buildup on the sun deck, then your gel coat's going to set quite quickly. And the problem with that is, unlike the other layers, gel coat is a waxed layer. And that means it's got wax suspended in it, just like you've seen in the graphic. And they need to rise to the surface, or else you don't end up with a solid, non-sticky deck. Like right now, this is a little bit sticky. And although it would dry up, it would dust up over time. Every time it got really hot out, an unwaxed surface starts getting sticky again. If the wax doesn't have time to rise in your gel coat, you have the same problem. And it's a problem because you don't want a sticky sun deck. You end up leaving footprints, dirt collects, that sort of thing. So you really want to take your time. If the weather conditions are not right to put on gel coat, if it's not in the evening in the shade, you know, on a cloudy day where it's not expected to rain, but you know, and not too cold, like those are ideal conditions. And if you can wait for those, that is best. It gives you a real head start in having this whole project finish the way you want it to. There's not to say that you cannot do it in more difficult conditions, but you really do have to be careful. You have to drop down your catalyst. You have to watch where the sun is. Again, avoid direct sunlight if at all possible. That is the #1 tip for having this work. I mean, I just had a customer in the other day who had done his sun deck and one little corner was in the sunlight. Everything else set up fine, but not that one little corner. So it's a real area to watch for. So I'm just going to finish mixing this up, and then we'll just apply it. Applying gel coat is really like applying paint. Same as the first layer of resin that we did. The only difference is that we're catalyzing it first. So just going to mix this in thoroughly. Again, you want gel coat is the most critical for mixing thoroughly. You don't want any spots on your deck that are more or less catalyzed than the others, because again, that can lead to sticky spots. Usually when people have that problem, it's either one or the other. They did not take the time to mix it thoroughly, or they had problems with the sunlight. Okay, so again, I'm just going to pour this on. Use the deck surface itself as a roller. Now, gel coat goes on quite thick. And in fact, you almost have to work at it to get it as thick as it should go on. And the reason you want it to go on thick is because there might be little imperfections, little pinholes in the fiberglass matte layer. It's not necessarily that they're pinholes all the way through. They probably aren't. But they're pinholes if you look at it on the surface. And when you're looking at the gel coat, what you're trying to get is a nice surface, but also something that's nice to maintain. So you don't want any little holes where dirt can get in and kind of stick around. You want it nice and easy to wash off. So what that generally means is, and this really, you know, most of the time you'd use a larger roller than this, but generally you would put a little bit of pressure on just when you're first putting it over an area, spreading it in. But then after that, you're putting very light pressure. You're more just spreading the gel coat around and letting it form a fairly thick layer. So I'm not putting any pressure on this. I'm just letting the roller roll and spread out what I've got here. Now in verticals you have to be a little bit more sparing. You can't go quite as thick there or else it might have a tendency to drip or give you a run or something like that. But okay, I'm just going to continue on the front here, and then by the looks of it I'll need to mix up another batch. And I do this all the time. I just, whenever I'm done gel coat, it's fairly thick. You want to use it all up. So I just pour the bucket over in a spot where I'm going to get to next. And then I pick it up and roll it out and then move on to my next batch. Now the one thing I should also do here, of course, is go down the edge. Because the flashing, although it comes out gray, it's not exactly the same gray as the sundeck surface. So what you want to do is just bring the gel coat down, make it all look the same, and that just gives you the finished look. Now it's a little bit thin in this corner, so I'm going to bring most of this resin over and just add a little bit to the thickness. So what I did is I just mixed it up off, measured out the catalyst off screen, and I'm just giving it a thorough stir. You have to be a little bit careful when you're reusing containers like this, like I am this time. To a point, you can get away with it, keeping everything fresh, but at some point, some of the stuff stuck around the edges and on the sides is going to start curing on you and getting into the resin. That's particularly bad in this gel coat layer because it's going to show up as lumps on the exact spot where you don't want any lumps, because you have to go back and do pieces over. So keep some mixing containers around. Whenever you start to think there's going to be problems or see problems, just throw it away, start another container. I'm going to put a little bit more resin still in that corner and then start pouring it out along the front here as well. And just roll it